That afternoon, a man named Andrei was waiting to be picked up by his father-in-law, who also worked as a taxi driver. His father-in-law, Rudolf, apologized for being late because he had stopped by a bar to play with a girl beforehand. Despite being in a father-in-law and son-in-law relationship, it seemed Andrei had a rather unconventional father-in-law. Rudolf even advised his son-in-law to enjoy life like he does, spending time with many women while still young, with the excuse of maintaining harmony and avoiding boredom within the family. Upon arriving home, Andrei was met with a stern expression from his wife, Alice. It turned out that it was their child's birthday that day. Alice was upset because Andrei, who was supposed to just go shopping, ended up taking more than an hour. Andrei could only stay silent and apologize for his tardiness. When Rudolf arrived, he explained that their delay was due to a visit to the hospital to check on one of his taxi customers who was undergoing surgery. However, Rudolf's wife, Marta, noticed a pool cue in her husband's hand and began to suspect that the two of them had actually just finished playing pool. This was Rudolf's clever way of hiding his infidelity from his wife. That evening, the family celebrated Pavlik's birthday, the child of Andrei and Alice. In his room, Pavlik happened to see through the window that his grandparents appeared to be wrestling. However, Andrei casually said that they were just playing Monopoly, not wrestling. That night, Andrei and Alice decided not to be outdone by the elderly couple. They planned to give Pavlik a new sibling as a symbol of the family harmony they had built together. The next day, when Andrei and Rudolf returned home after shopping, Andrei complained to his father-in-law that his back was aching. This was caused by Alice, who was so eager to have a baby that she kept asking him to play. Andrei even joked that if Alice still wasn't pregnant soon, he might end up paralyzed from playing too much. Rudolf, the father-in-law, advised that Andrei would not become paralyzed if he approached playing with the same enthusiasm as Rudolf, who, despite his advanced age, remains full of energy. Andrei became curious about his father-in-law's secret to such prowess in bed. Rudolf casually explained that to maintain his passion, he simply closes his eyes and imagines playing with other women he has stored in his memory. At the end of the conversation, Rudolf added that, to keep his marriage with Alice harmonious and lasting, Andrei should play more often with other beautiful women. Quite the advice, Mr. Rudolf, you truly are a unique and wise father-in-law. Afterward, Alice and Andrei went to their restaurant. That day, the restaurant seemed quiet, and Andrei blamed Alice for choosing an inadequate chef. However, Alice instead blamed Rudolf, whom she believed was incapable of attracting customers to the restaurant. That evening, this father-in-law and son-in-law went to a bar to play pool. There, Rudolf introduced a beautiful woman named Sarlota to join them in their game. As Sarlota played, both men couldn't take their eyes off her, filled with admiration while harboring peculiar thoughts within their minds. The night grew colder, and Sarlota began to shiver from the chill. Rudolf quickly took off the jacket that Andrei was wearing and gave it to Sarlota, forcing Andrei to endure the cold. Worse yet, Rudolf chose to escort Sarlota home, leaving Andrei alone in the cold. Andrei had to walk home in the rain, adding to his suffering that night. Upon arriving home, Andrei was confronted with Alice's pregnancy test result, which once again showed negative. Alice informed him that she had consulted a gynecologist and was declared healthy and ready for pregnancy. Therefore, Alice suggested that Andrei also check his fertility at the hospital. Andrei had no choice but to agree. The next day, at the hospital, thoughts of Sarlota reappeared when Andrei was about to provide a sample for testing. However, that imagination vanished instantly when Alice knocked on the door to check on him. Some time later, Andrei was at his restaurant when a guest arrived. It was none other than Sarlota. Andrei immediately dismissed his chef from the kitchen and prepared a meal for Sarlota himself. Unexpectedly, Sarlota followed him into the kitchen and began to flirt with Andrei. Sarlota mentioned that Andrei should come to her apartment to retrieve his jacket. Andrei now found himself in Sarlota's apartment, sitting on a swing and enjoying the atmosphere. However, Andrei quickly realized that Sarlota didn't live there alone. Two of her friends, Bara and Irina, also resided in the apartment. The two women had been observing them for a while but chose not to intervene. Feeling embarrassed by the situation, Andrei decided to return to his own apartment. Unfortunately, upon arriving home, Alice discovered his infidelity. In the pocket of the jacket returned by Sarlota, Alice found an article of clothing belonging to the woman. This discovery enraged Alice, and in a fit of anger, she approached Andrei, who was in the shower. With a large pair of scissors in her hand, Alice began to interrogate her husband. Meanwhile, Rudolf faced a similar fate. Rudolf was forced to sleep in the storage room after Marta, his wife, found someone else's underwear in his jacket pocket. Now, both men had to reflect on their foolishness in cheating while sleeping in the storage room. That night, Marta visited Alice and shared tales of Rudolph's escapades with many women, which Marta had actually known about for a long time. However, Marta chose to remain patient and not destroy their marriage. Marta emphasized that infidelity happens because men have a compass between their legs that always points toward many women. Meanwhile, Rudolph proudly showed off the results of his adventures, claiming to have been involved with a total of 139 women, complete with photos and other souvenirs. André then began thinking of ways to repair his relationship with Alice. Rudolph suggested that André give an expensive handbag to Marta, which his wife had recently been talking about. André started contemplating what gift he could give to get Alice to forgive him. The next day, while Marta was at work, she received a surprise from her husband, a luxury handbag tucked among a box of flowers. This surprise brought Marta immense joy. She walked around confidently, proudly showing off her expensive bag. However, from a distance, two thieves had already set their eyes on Marta's purse. They quickly snatched it and only took the money inside. Marta thought the thieves were very foolish for not realizing that the bag they held was a valuable item, instead only taking loose change. Unfortunately, misfortune struck Marta. Not long after she retrieved her bag, a minivan suddenly hit her from behind, causing her instant death. Meanwhile, Rudolph was busy decorating a room to surprise his wife. Hearing footsteps outside, Rudolph assumed it was Marta returning home. However, when the door opened, it was a police officer with tragic news about his wife's death. A few days after the incident, Rudolph still appeared devastated by his wife's passing. Even though a female customer tried to flirt with him, Rudolph chose to ignore her and focused on coping with his deep grief. His unstable emotional state made him careless, leading to an accident where he burned himself with an iron. Seeing her father in such a pitiful condition, Alice became worried and decided to visit him. They began tidying up the messy house, acknowledging that Rudolph now had to live alone. During their conversation, Alice suggested that Rudolph invite one of his mistresses to live with him in the house. Rudolph was shocked and assumed that André had told Alice about his affairs. However, Alice explained that she learned about it from Marta. In fact, Marta had long known about all the women Rudolph had been involved with. This revelation stunned Rudolph, as he never imagined his wife had known everything and still chose to forgive him. Nevertheless, Rudolph declined Alice's suggestion, as he now realized that despite being with many women, none could replace Marta as the place he called home. A few days later, André visited Charlotta's apartment under the pretense of playing tennis, as he had told Alice. There, they spent time playing together. Unsatisfied, Charlotta invited André to continue their game in the car. However, their fun took a turn when Charlotta accidentally shifted the car's gear, causing the vehicle to lurch uncontrollably and crash into something. André returned home with a neck injury and a badly damaged car. He explained to Alice that the car was old and needed to be replaced with a newer, larger vehicle. However, their finances were tight because their restaurant was struggling with low patronage. André took the initiative to become the chef in his own restaurant to boost sales. Sure enough, the restaurant began to fill with customers eager to taste André's specialty dishes. After saving enough money, André finally bought a new car and immediately took Charlotta out for a drive. With stable finances and a renewed romantic relationship, André and Alice's marriage regained its harmony. One day, after Christmas, their restaurant received a visit from Charlotta. This made André nervous, fearing that Charlotta had come to disrupt his marriage with Alice. However, it turned out that Charlotta's visit was not for that purpose. She applied for a job as a waitress at the restaurant and also offered to help take care of Rudolph, who was now living alone. As time went on, André began to feel jealous upon noticing how close his father-in-law was with Charlotta. One day, André seized an opportunity when Rudolph was not at home. André entered and directly asked Charlotta what her real intentions were in coming into their family. In a teasing tone, Charlotta replied that she was willing to do anything just to be close to André. That day, they engaged in an affair at his father-in-law's house. However, unexpectedly, Alice accidentally saw Charlotta dancing. Alice assumed that Charlotta was dancing to entertain a lonely Rudolph, while in reality, Charlotta was dancing with André. For the time being, André's affair remained hidden. The next day, Alice unintentionally overheard that André was planning to have dinner with someone. This prompted her to take the initiative to follow her husband. When night fell, André arrived first and met Charlotta at the restaurant. André invited Charlotta to dinner with the intention of ending their illicit relationship. However, shortly after, Alice arrived to join her husband. Charlotta casually greeted Alice, while André hid under the table to avoid being caught. When Alice reached the table, she was puzzled to see Charlotte sitting alone. Charlotte then explained that she was meeting her lover to inform him that she was pregnant. André, hearing this statement from under the table, was utterly shocked. Coincidentally, the waiter arrived with the dishes, giving André the chance to sneak out of the place. In the restaurant lobby, André ran into Rudolph, and they discussed Charlotte's pregnancy. Rudolph was annoyed by his son-in-law's recklessness and advised André to go home immediately and prepare a surprise for his wife, while Rudolph would handle the situation appropriately. Back at the dinner table, just as Charlotte was about to reveal the father of the child she was carrying, the restaurant lights suddenly went out, and the staff appeared to surprise Charlotte. Shortly afterward, Rudolph entered and claimed that the baby Charlotte was carrying was his. Alice was stunned by her father's behavior, while Charlotte quietly went along with Rudolph's plan. Rudolph then explained to Alice that, although he did not know who the real father of the baby was, rather than allowing Charlotte to ruin someone else's marriage and possibly not be married by the man who impregnated her, it was better for Rudolph to marry Charlotte. Rudolph did not want Charlotte to have to raise the child alone after being abandoned. Alice finally understood the intention behind her father's actions, while Charlotte also realized that the situation left her with no choice but to marry Rudolph. After resolving the issue at the restaurant, Alice returned home and found a surprise from her husband. Alice felt immensely happy as her suspicion that her husband was having an affair with Charlotte turned out to be unfounded. Alice then apologized for her mistrust and revealed that she was pregnant, adding even more joy to their hearts. André remained silent, keeping his affair a secret as he did not want to spoil the happy moment. A few months later, the pregnancies of both women became more evident. They appeared content with their respective pregnancy journeys, as if all the problems that once existed had been resolved. That morning, Rudolph took his grandson for a walk and began teaching him how to be a playboy from an early age. Afterward, Rudolph entered a locked roller coaster ride and played on it alone. At the top of the ride, Rudolph scattered his wife's ashes while reminiscing about their love story. Despite having experienced various adventures with many women, for Rudolph, Marta would always remain the number one woman in his life. And that concludes our film today. A complicated yet colorful relationship. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.